Sports Page, coming to you live from the Blue Tick Tavern in Maryville at 92.5 FM and 1180 AM. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Bringing you the best in Blount County sports since 1978. Featuring the Greenfield Gunner, Mike Edwards, former Maryville Scott, Donnie Moore, and from the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and I'm here at the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville, along with Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Maryville Times sports reporter Caleb Giroux will join our Goteez Sports Page crew, along with Carson Newman assistant football coach Tony Iruli. Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose are now eligible for baseball's Hall of Fame, and we're going to the whistle blows. And now let's set today's lineup card. Donnie Moore and I will fill you in on the latest high school sports news, and we'll follow that up with some of the top national sports stories. Marcus Fitzsimmons will be on board to update us on what's happening in local high school sports, and we'll cover the teams and individuals who are making a mark. Today, Marcus zeroes in on Maryville High School and Alcoa High School track. And I'll jump in and talk the latest UT sports news, along with the big news on Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson being cleared for the Baseball Hall of Fame. We're happy you're here with us, so let's break the huddle and dive right in. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Goteez Sports Page, our last show of this season.
Yep,
this is it for
Swan Song
yeah.
for the year.
We'll have to give each other big hugs before.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah.
Maybe not big hugs.
There's a dog. The dog pile is scheduled for 12 o'clock.
All right.
Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, this past Wednesday night, the Goteez Sports Award program was held at Heritage High School. Big night for a lot of great athletes across Blount County, and great for a lot of teams, and another successful night, huh, guys?
I thought so. I thought we did well, and thought the athletes turned out and gave interviews for us, and we had a good time.
Yeah.
And I think we got through. Every time we get a little bit better. I only had one big flub that I know of.
You did good.
And I still want to apologize to Heritage Girls basketball for that. But
What did you do?
well, we got into after we've done 54 straight award winners. I lost track and didn't realize we were at the end. So we had two athletes representing the team. I thought one of them was the next award winner, and I put Carson Swaney on the spot for about 3 minutes and then turned over, and it was like, oh, I guess I left you out. Sorry.
Oops a doodle.
She said, I'm with her.
Then he went in and spilled about one of the cheerleader awards that she was all hyped up to going to Carson Newman. Wanted to know if she knew Tony Iruli, and it sounded really good. But the problem was she was going to Bryan College.
We had the wrong bio.
We had to correct that a little bit and say, well, Bryan probably plays Carson Newman, so you're going to get an opportunity.
So Maryville Christian has a cheerleader going to Carson Newman and one going to Bryan, and somehow we got the schools switched on the names.
Oh,
yeah.
So you had to call like an audible right in the middle.
Yeah,
and,
you did.
Get that corrected.
I'm glad the camera was on her because my face did this whole little contorted thing. Like I know what we just did, and I've got to punt and restart.
Well, I've seen that face before. Whenever Ray Trail would say something, and
No, that was the look of sheer terror.
Oh,
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was the FCC's going to be calling soon.
Yeah. Are we still on the air or not?
Yeah.
But no, it was a great night. I mean, this is the third year, and I would guess at this point Goteez has presented close to 150 awards over these three shows. I've yet to see one of them presented. So
we're always behind the scenes.
we are backstage. I think I'm going to press Bryan next year that we can do the green carpet, have a green carpet coming in out front, and do something out there where we can actually see them beforehand.
Yeah. Well, Marcus, before we get going here, you got a couple of other announcements? Severe.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Parks and Rec opened John Sevier Pool yesterday. Obviously not to the best weather in the world for the first day of pool season, but John Sevier is open. Springbrook will be opening on Friday. And both pools are looking to be in good shape. I think they've got the leak under Springbrook a
Springbrook
little bit slower, I think is what we're hoping.
A little.
But they're going to have the divers out there this week to do the last patches, and the pool will be open on Friday, and it'll be another good pool season.
Very good. Very good. Hope it stops raining.
Yeah. Well,
Good luck with that.
yeah. You don't.
Or the pool's going to really fill up
I
on
was
a
gonna
nightly
say,
basis.
Yeah, it was like this. The Iruli pool. The Iruli pool's going to be opening up on Monday.
There you
so
go.
There you go. So
There you go.
we're ready to roll.
Yeah.
Well, mine's open, and I looked this morning, and the pool furniture was in the pool. So.
It was in the
Well, the furniture gets to play too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I've got Let Her Rip
Go for
all lined
Let's
up
do it.
for the last show of
Do it.
the year, and
Do
we're
it.
going to talk about the Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, and they're now being eligible, I
Yep.
guess, for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And we're going to talk about some pros and cons, and I'm going to look at one side of it, and then I'm going to look at what I've researched on the other side of it, and then I'm going to get to how you all feel about the decision that was made. Some of you may change your mind. Some of you may have your minds already made up. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into it. Hey, this past week, Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred lifted the ban from baseball for Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. His ruling released 16 deceased players and one deceased owner. The reaction from baseball fans across the country was as divided as the country itself. On one side were the Pete Rose loyalists who rationalized their opinion. And here's some of the things that I've heard and read about on that side. One, Pete Rose is the all-time hits leader, 4,256 hits, and he deserves to be in baseball's Hall of Fame. Two, Pete has served his time, and he deserves to be reinstated. Three, Pete broke his record without using performance-enhancing drugs. Four, Pete admitted he bet on baseball, should have been given a second chance. Five, everyone can bet on sports now, so since betting is part of the game for fans, reinstate him. Six, Pete should have been reinstated while he was alive. And seven, Pete didn't bet on his own team. And you guys can add anything you want to add to that, but that's pretty much the gist of what I've heard from that side, and people feel pretty strongly about that. On the other side, fans who feel baseball, on the other side are fans that felt that baseball's integrity should be preserved and abide by the rules. So when I saw that, I thought, well, I don't know that I've ever read the rule. So I looked up, did some research on the rule, and I guess CBS, they had an article, and so they had the rule in there, and that's where I got it. But the Major League Baseball rule 21D states, any player, umpire, or club, or league official, or employee who shall bet any sum whatsoever upon any baseball game in connection with which the bettor has a duty to perform shall be declared permanently ineligible. Now, that kind of struck me right there, because that rule doesn't say anything in there about a lifetime ineligibility. It says permanently. So obviously the people on the other side of the fence is saying permanently means forever and after, and that's it. There's no arguing the point. So those people are, they're into the law, they're into the rules. This is kind of the constitution of baseball, so to speak, and that's kind of where they stand. In 1990, and Pete Rose willingly violated the rule both as a player and as a manager. In 1991, the Baseball Hall of Fame decided that players ruled permanently ineligible by Major League Baseball would also be ineligible for the Hall of Fame. And
that was the Pete Rose rule.
Yeah. And number 10, along the lines there, Pete Rose compromised the integrity of baseball and stained it according to the rule. And this is the other side saying this. And then I read where a lot of people have raised, Shoeless Joe Jackson's been dead a long time, but there was no going back to the rule and saying, it was lifetime and he did, and we'll go ahead and we'll put him in. They brought that argument up. and said, well, this is basically because of Pete Rose. It's not because of all these other guys that were involved. It's basically for him at this time, and so they brought that out. But the rule, for a lot of people that don't know, it was instituted in 1921 and was posted in every clubhouse for decades. Charlie Playo, when he was on the show, used to talk about the sign that was in the locker room that said, hey, basically, if you bet on baseball, you're going to be banned, from the game.
That's right.
It
Of course,
was still in the
the
Smokies
wording,
locker room last year.
the wording was different.
Huh.
But yeah,
And didn't Charlie play in 1921?
Yeah,
He
you might have.
Yeah, he
he got the original.
Charlie and
Charlie's
Shoeless Joe
listening.
were contemporaries.
Yeah, that's right. I know
Yeah.
Charlie's listening.
Yeah, but anyway, 1919. Of course, we had the Black Sox scandal. That supposedly there was a group of White Sox players that threw the series against the Cincinnati Reds, and got involved with some gamblers and was paid off. And of course, Shoeless Joe Jackson was involved in that. And then they went to trial. And I don't know what the rule was on gambling and playing before that scandal. I don't know, but it went to trial, and those players were all acquitted. But they admitted, that they took the bait, they took the money.
Right.
And Kennesaw Mountain Landis was chosen as the commissioner, and then of course he banned all of them from baseball and put this rule in, and it has stood ever since.
Yeah.
So anyway. Tony, I know you're a baseball fan and card collector and so forth, so I'm going to start with you and kind of get your feelings on the deal.
Well, first of all, with Pete Rose, my understanding that he never bet on the Reds or anything like that. He's, but at the same time, common sense, he should have stayed, not do it. But that's the way he was. He got penalized for it. I think a lot of the reason why they're so against Pete Rose is Pete Rose really is not a good guy. I mean he was caused a lot of issues behind the scenes and all that. And
well, he's a gunslinger.
Yeah, gunslinger, and but if you take that away, I mean he's got all the records. That he paid. I think he paid his dues because he was not allowed to re-enter for the Hall of Fame while he was alive. Probably the rules that he broke, they're all legal now. I think
Almost anything goes now.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
it's not,
so?
but
It's close.
well,
Go
I would take it this way. He broke the rules.
Yeah.
And
He did
the
bet on the-
game
yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, you've got other precedents that were set back there. So to me, if you're willing to consider Pete, you have to grab not just the Black Sox, but you've got to grab those 4 or 5 guys from like 23, 24, and 25 that got lifetime bans. Because there were several cases after the Black Sox scandal, right after the rule went in. The first 4 years, they were really vigilant and got several guys. And I don't think you had another one again for maybe 20 years. But if you're going to let Pete off, then you go back and let all of them off and use the same thing. It's a lifetime ban. Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that and get away with that as being a lifetime ban. And at some point after you die, maybe we'll let you be reinstated to be considered for the Hall of Fame ballot. But you're not going to. There's nothing you can do to get out of it while you're still got a heartbeat. I think that's a good punishment.
Yeah.
Because most of these guys are so competitive. That's the worst thing you can do to them. They don't care what happens after they're gone. They're competitive. They're going to compete to be on the Hall of Fame ballot. They're competitive.
You also wonder, will the Hall of Fame even put them in? Because we know how the Hall of Fame voters are and how political they are.
He's not even
Good question.
eligible.
You put them.
Not even eligible to 1928.
Yeah, you put them on the ballot. You wonder, will the voters even want them in, or will they kind of reinstate the rule themselves?
That's just a fickle, contentious process.
Yes.
You never know what's going to happen. And I mean, I don't even. Did they say he can be considered on the first ballot, like a regular player?
I didn't hear him say whether he could
Or is he going
not.
to have to go in through the old timers
Old-timers.
system? I don't know which route they would have
Shoeless
taken.
Joe might.
Yeah.
I think he'll go through the old
Yeah.
timer system.
With Joe Jackson, though, all right, he got banned. He had such a minor role in. If you ever watch that movie, 8 Men Out and all that, he had such a minor role. In fact, he led the team in hitting. I think he had the most home runs during the series. I mean, all the batting average. I mean, he led the team and all that. But it was this group of guys, and he just kind of had their backs a little bit. But there was not ever one incident that you say, well, he threw the game. He missed a fly ball, or he struck out on a line. I mean, he was. I think he may have been the MVP of the World Series. And and then with the steroid thing, I mean, that was such a big deal, for a lot of us. But at that time was steroids illegal?
Yeah.
Only partially.
Yeah, and so
some of the stuff that went on in the 80s was done before the rule, and some of the rule kept being. Baseball tried to be specific with the rules, so they never kept up with the latest and greatest stuff. So some of those things they can actually argue it wasn't illegal when I did it, but some of it was definitely legal when they did it, and they knew it was legal when they did it, and they flouted the rule. They didn't even really try to hide it. If you're doing it in the clubhouse, then you're not trying to. I mean,
back to shoeless Joe Jackson. He batted .375 in that World Series, and he did not commit an error, and he hit the only home run in the series.
Goodness.
The only problem that he did is he took the $5,000. That was the problem. He took the money, and that did him in right there. I mean, he wasn't involved probably on the field in throwing any of the games, but he took the money, and that's what did it.
Right, but he took the $5,000 because back in those days, the players were making $5,000 for the whole year.
Comiskey wasn't paying him very much money.
No.
And Caleb, your take, you all right with the situation?
I mean, I do agree that the lifetime ban makes sense if you want to set that precedent. I also think it's okay from the standpoint of if you put them on the Hall of Fame ballot and the Hall of Fame voters think what Pete Rose did was bad enough or what Shoeless Joe Jackson did was bad enough, they won't elect them. So you might as well let them be eligible and let the Hall of Fame committee decide. But I think, honestly, I can't speak as much for Shoeless Joe Jackson, but for Pete Rose, I feel like being banned from the Hall of Fame was part of his legacy and probably made him more money than if he just would have went into the Hall of Fame after his career, because he really milked it for all it was worth.
But not everybody's going to milk it like he was capable of doing.
Yeah.
Because not every time you get something like this situation is it going to be an athlete who is as popular or draws as much attention as Pete Rose did. Yeah. But when you do, I mean, by putting that ban in place, you're kind of preventing some of these incidents that can come, because there was a lot of ceremonies, a lot of things, official events with Major League Baseball Pete Rose never attended because of the ban.
Yeah.
Even after his career's over. And that probably saves Major League Baseball a lot of embarrassment, because you don't want that guy walking in the room and everybody knowing and revisiting that subject again for the 50th time.
Yeah.
Like we're doing this morning.
like I mentioned, I think it would have been a little bit different in the view of Major League Baseball if Pete Rose really was contrite, really was truly sorry for what he did. I messed up. I should not. From day one, I should have. But he didn't admit it until maybe about 10 years after it all happened.
Yeah, that was. That's a good point, because the loyalists, the by the book, by the law, by the rule type deal, he really didn't admit that he bet on it until 2004, I believe. So there was some time period through there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the thing was he accepted the lifetime ban because you could appeal it after a year, but then they put in that 1991 rule, which messed it up because he wasn't eligible yet.
Yeah. And was it a couple years ago? Was it the player, the great player for the Dodgers?
Shohei Ohtani's translator.
His translator, got caught. Don't tell me that Ohtani didn't know what was going on. All right, his translator took the heat and the punishment and all that. But I guarantee you, he's getting paid under the table money and all that. Don't tell me Ohtani didn't know what was going on.
Caleb brought up the point that we don't know whether the Hall of Fame will allow them or even nominate them to go in or not. Here's the deal. According to our resident expert,
Our non-resident expert.
Yes, our non-resident expert. Used to be a resident, Charlie Paleo. He said it has to go before the Old Timers Committee.
That's what we thought here.
And the Old Timers Committee is composed of 16 people, and a player needs 12 votes to get in. And they would be eligible for the 2026 vote.
Yep. So, Donnie, with that being said, we're to you now. So we've got 3 guys right there that are pretty much all, all right with what's happened. So where are you at?
Oh, I totally agree. I think if they're going to let if they're going to put the steroid people in, which they may or may not do, then they ought to allow these other people to get in too.
Again, ask Charlie if he was playing in 1920.
I was.
He said he texted back and said not funny.
Not funny. Okay. I'm sorry, Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie.
I think we're back to me.
Okay.
We're back to you, Mike.
I hate to
are.
put a damper on
Okay,
everybody.
all right,
I hate to be damper.
Here it comes.
But I don't have any problem with Pete Rose's having a special place in the Hall of Fame with his glove and his mitt and his uniform and his hat and the records that he's done up there and his jock strap and anything else you want to put in there. I don't really care. And he's in there. He's right there. But the word that gets me, and the fact that this rule is basically the constitutional rule of baseball, that if you bet against the game, you are permanently ineligible.
That's true.
When
That's
I
what it
take the
says.
word permanent, I'm taking forever.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at the rule. And if you're going to do what you did, then you need to change the constitutional rule of baseball and fit it to what you decided. Now, I don't know where the lifetime deal came about. Maybe somebody in the sports writing field years ago said he's banned for a lifetime, and they just picked up on that. But I figured that was in the rule, that they were banned for a lifetime. That's the way I understood it, because that's the way I've always read it. But when I picked up the rule
That's
and
not
saw
what
that
it
it says
says, though.
permanently, I can't buy it. But now, should he be in there? Should he be recognized? Yes. Should he be in the Hall of Fame as an elected player? I'm not so sure. Well, the jury's still out on the deal. I mean, it's not a done deal. It's just a step. But if you go back and you compare Shoeless Joe Jackson with Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe's been gone a long time. But listen, Shoeless Joe, he batted .356. He batted .356. Now Pete got a lot of hits, and he beat Ty Cobb's record. That's a fantastic record to beat. It may never be broken again. But Shoeless Joe, Ted Williams said he was the greatest. Shoeless Joe was the greatest hitter that he was ever around or ever saw play. And you go back to hitters, there's none, in my opinion, any finer than Ted Williams. I mean, that's quite a compliment. And he thought that he should be in the Hall of Fame, but it's.
Again, and we mentioned it briefly, is that Shoeless Joe, he joined the group of 7 or 8 other players because, they were offering him $5,000, which was about what he's being paid for the entire year. And back in those days, a lot of those guys, they played baseball, but when the season was over, they had to find other jobs.
They had to go get a job.
You had to go get a job and do that. And show me the evidence that Shoeless Joe did anything to throw any of the games. And there's nothing out there. Now, the other players, they did things. It didn't pitch as well, made some errors, made bad throws. And
But they all admitted that they did it. They all admitted that they were in on the take. That's the problem. That's the problem. He took the money. He was in on the take, regardless of whether he tried to throw the series or not. That's he was in on it. When you take the money, you're in on it, aren't you? Pretty much.
Seems to me.
I mean, I don't see how you get out of that deal. But anyway, the decision's been made. We can't change the decision, but I think it's going to be argued back and forth for a while, and then when it comes up that they can vote on them going into the Hall, then it's going to come up again. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
They've not been very lenient with and you've already brought this up, Tony, with the steroid players. They haven't been very lenient with that.
No,
they haven't
down pretty hard on them.
and there was some pretty hefty records broke with those guys, but they haven't come around.
Especially a lot of those guys, they went. Didn't they go in front of a congressional committee and it's several of them. One of the guy that plays for the
Palmero,
Yeah,
Rafael Palmero.
Yeah, it was lined.
Orioles.
Yeah, it was absolutely lined right to the committee and all that, and so yeah, I just think that it's. I think Pete Rose and Wade's paid his dues because I mean he really was such an unlikable guy to a lot of people that there was no way that they were going to do anything until he passed away.
Oh.
And so,
There's no question.
Yeah.
There's no question at all. I think all of us are sitting here agreeing that he should be in there based on what he did as a player.
Yeah.
You know, before we get out of here, Tony, let's talk a little bit about baseball, Maryville College. Maryville College, and Caleb, you wrote a nice article about, I guess, the last time they were in the NCAA tournament, 1977. Been a while, huh?
Been a while,
Why don't
Tony.
you guys talk about that a little bit here before we leave the air?
yeah, it just kind of dawned on me because Maryville College had a great season this year, and I never realized that it was 48 years since the last time Maryville College baseball team had gone to the national NCAA playoffs, and that was the 1977, and I was a member of that team. And then it just kind of dawned on me, well, how did we get there? Well, Billy Henry was our head coach, and and Billy was always kind of, like I said, a wheeler dealer, all right. And we had to win 20 games in order to be into the playoffs. Well, we had several rainouts near the end of the season, and so we're going into the last game of the season with a 17-10 record. So we had to, win 20 games. If, play doubleheader, win both of them 19-10, we're not going to the playoffs. So he convinced the head coach of Emory Henry to play a triple header. Play a triple header. And
did he pay him any money for that, or did he just go ahead and
Billy probably
just
worked
did
it. There was a deal. I can guarantee you there was a deal with Billy. I love the guy to death. And so we if we would have lost either the first or second game, then we would have ended up just playing a doubleheader. All right. If we won the first two games, then we would play a third game with a chance of going in. So we go ahead and go up there. The game must have started, I think, about 10, 11 o'clock, and we left here about 6 in the morning, drove off to Emory Henry, who was a big rival to Maryville College back in those days, baseball, football, basketball. And so we started the game probably about 11 o'clock, and we were behind, and we came back and won an extra innings the first game. What was it, 8-7 or something like that?
Yeah, that sounds
the
right.
research and all that. And then Barry Mathis, a good friend of mine, pitched that game and won that game. Then the second game, we won maybe 8-4 the second game. So now we're going to play that third game, and the third game we ended up winning. And I think Barry Mathis pitched in relief in the second and third game. But we had some great players on the team: Ken Hanna, Johnny Walker, Dave Osborne. If you looked at the roster, 7 members of that team are in the Maryville College Hall of Fame. And so it was a very talented group. That was back in the days when you played at Maryville College, you usually played 2 sports. And a lot of those guys also played football as well. And so, and coincidentally, all right, we played at Lynchburg, Virginia, and Maryville now is playing their playoff game in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was great. It was bringing back great memories, and we had a lot of guys on that team. And I really appreciate the article that you wrote on the team. That was really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, you left out the best part, Tony. It was the biscuits and gravy from the dining hall before y'all left that
That's
pushed
right.
you through the triple header.
Biscuits and gravy early. That was the key right there. Then back then, you remember how we traveled. We had one band that maybe carried 10 players,
Yep.
and everyone else drove up in their cars.
That's right.
So, obviously that's not the way they travel nowadays and all that. But it was like I told you, it was the longest day ever because we didn't get done for that last game till about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and everyone was just worn out. But it was a great tribute to that '77 team, and a lot of good friends, and a lot of them are still hanging around, doing pretty good. And hopefully, if we're still up and running, maybe in about 2 years, we have a reunion with the 50th team together.
Yeah, very good. And there's 64 teams in the tournament, the way I understand it this year, and they're down at Lynchburg, and they had a rough go yesterday. They lost 7-1, and I think as we're talking here, I think they're playing. I think they played this morning at 10 o'clock or started their game at 10 o'clock. So,
but I tell you, Maryville's done a great job with their baseball program, and Coach Helton's done a tremendous job. And right now, I think Maryville College is really in a good place with all with their athletic programs right now. So good job.
Yeah.
That's what's going over there for the fight. I still call them the Fighting Scots.
Fighting Scots.
Yeah, Fighting Scots. They want to say Scots, but to me it's Fighting Scots.
Yeah. Very good. We'll take a break here, and when we come back, Marcus Fitzsimmons will be up with his feature Mark It Down. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports. Very good,
For
guys.
over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925. Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Goteez Sports Page. Marcus Fitzsimmons, you got Alcoa Track in here this morning. I see a familiar face. Hi, Chris. Coach Chris Ferry's here, and with another powerhouse, I assume, huh?
Well, we don't have quite as many bullets in the gun this year, but we're hoping to at least go down there and make some noise.
Yeah, boy. Okay, Marcus, it's all yours, guy.
I got you, Marcus.
There we go. So, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it, Chris. And just give us a quick recap, because this season has blown by because you all have been avoiding raindrops for it seems like 6 weeks now.
Pretty much, yeah. We've dealt with a lot of weather. It's affected our practices more than meets. So that, if anything, it's the training disruptions from that we've had. But of course, at Alcoa, training's always a challenge anyway when you're putting cones around a football field and jumping off the end of a sidewalk for a long jump. But we've been able to get a few good quality workouts in the last couple of weeks, so we feel pretty good going in.
So how did sectionals break down this year? I mean, how many athletes are we looking at going to spring fling next week?
We've got 6, I believe. We're competing in 6 events on Tuesday. Jameer Dean just went in the decathlon last week and finished 7th. He had a great second day and kind of came back from last place to get on the podium. We've got Josiah Tucker here. He's the number 1 seed going in the 110 hurdles. He's trying to defend a state championship this year in that event. And he's right now, I believe, the number 2 in 300. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He's the number 2 in the 300 hurdles. And then we've got in open events, Jabril Coco is qualified in the 400. And then we've got 3 relay teams going too. So total of 6 events.
Okay, so are we doing long relays, or are we doing the sprint relays, or are we doing a combination in between of every old
We've
place?
got 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4.
So the fast
our boys were just out of it. I think they were 1 place out of qualifying. So, it would have been great to have all 4 of the relays in, but we'll take what we've got.
So, okay, so it's not as good a year as we've seen. This is not a team that's got enough numbers to compete for the state crown, doesn't sound like, but it's one that can make some noise being competitive in events.
I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen some really strange things happen at the state meet. I've seen number 1 seeds go and just completely fizzle when they get to the state meet. It's just a whole different animal in terms of pressure and the quality of competition. If some things really went our way, we might be able to at least come close. Well, I think right now it's reasonable to hope for a top 3 finish for us, which we moved up in classifications last year, and that AA classification in track is, I would argue, that is every bit as strong as AAA in almost every event.
I would not argue with you on
Nope.
that.
Seven of the top, I think 6 or 7 of the top throwers in the state came out of AA this year. The sprints are as strong. You could probably find a top person in AAA that's better than a lot of what we have in AA, but it doesn't go much deeper than that. And that, of course, creates a whole lot of different challenges for us. We used to be able to, in single A, you could get by with qualifying a few kids with kind of questionable times, but that doesn't happen in AA. If you're not on your game, you're not going.
And where did y'all have to go this year? Where was it, in Knoxville, or did you have to go Chattanooga or Tri-Cities, or?
This year we were, let's see, where were we this year? We were at UT, yeah.
UT.
Yeah.
So that better than some of the destinations, some of our some of our programs.
It's a wonderful facility. There's no doubt about that. And I think it brings out good times and good marks from the kids too. I think they like competing in that venue.
Well, let's pick on him and find out.
Let's go.
Josiah, welcome in this morning. Talk about going into the sectional meet and needing to win your way back to state.
I mean, I knew I could do it. I mean, there really wasn't any kind of heavy competition. I just know if I just stuck to it, ran my race, do what I know I could do, I would have came out on top. It was just a matter of keeping the wheels turning and keeping everybody out of my head.
And sometimes that's the hardest thing, when you feel like you've got a little bit of time on everybody else in the heat or in that race. Sometimes that motivation factor is the hardest thing to manufacture.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure can get to me at times, but I knew that, like, they needed me. I knew that I was, if I didn't win the hurdles and if I didn't place high in the 300 hurdles, then our chances of getting the placing on the podium there would be lower than me winning. So I knew that I needed to get as many points as I could by myself, and then factor in what I did on the relays too. So I mean, like I said, I knew I could do it. It was just a factor of keeping the wheels turning and staying focused.
So, who was the evil person that convinced you should not only just run, but that while you're running, you should jump over obstacles along the way, and that would be a fun thing to
That
do?
goes all the way back to middle school, doesn't it?
Yeah. Middle school Coach Bauman had came and asked me if I wanted to try hurdles one day. I was like, why not?
And I say that because there is a knack to, it's not just running, and I think people believe you all just jump at a hurdle. And I don't think they understand how there's a step process, and you're looking for a spot to take off and minimize the height above that hurdle to go fast. How difficult is it to learn that process and develop what you're comfortable with?
It's always been easier for me because I've been taller. So like middle school, going over 33 inches. It was nothing.
I don't even think it was that high. I think it was 30.
Yeah, I just know going over it. I don't even think I was like jumping over. I think I was just running over the hurdle. And then going to high school, just applying that same type of mentality, just run over the hurdle. It kind of helped, and I didn't need to jump because I'm taller. And then you got to just practice the other mechanics like the trail leg, lead leg, staying low to the hurdle, attacking through it.
And how hard is that to do? Coach mentioned it. It's not like you guys got a track with hurdles sitting out there you can go use anytime you want to.
It's better than not having anything, I guess. I mean, it would be easier having a track to do it on, but not anybody can do it. I definitely think if you want to be a good hurdler, then you definitely have to work at it. You can't just go out there and just jump hurdles and be good at it. You definitely have to practice and work at it. Getting on a track would definitely be more helpful, but like I said, we're Alcoa. We do what we can when we can.
We are able to get on. Eagleton was nice enough to let us use their track this spring week, so we could get on the track once a week and get a little bit of that. But he is, in Josiah doesn't say, but he is very technically sound in the hurdles. hurdles. He works at this all the time. When he's not doing it with us, he's doing summer track, he's doing indoor in the winter. And it's hard to find many glitches in his technique when it comes to hurdles, and that's obviously pays off with his performances right now. He's had some big PRs this spring, both in the hundreds and a huge one in sectionals in the 300 hurdles too.
And Coach, you have seen this over the years. You get athletes out there and you're trying to recruit people to try hurdles. I just remember back to some of those practices back in the day, and just when they would make people try it, and you see people literally trying to stop and jump over the hurdle. When you see somebody like him coming in, it's got to make you be like, oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, it doesn't take more than about 5 minutes to figure out who's got potential as a hurdler. The ones that come to that complete stop and then do a 2-leg hop over the hurdle, we pretty much know that that's not going to work. I've always preached to kids that are just starting out that hurdling is sprinting with stuff in the way. So the idea is you're sprinting over the hurdles. If you have to stop and jump, then hang time is dead time in the hurdles.
I remember Seymour had a shot put guy that was a linebacker in football, and they got him to try it. And his approach was to run through the hurdles, figuring if he didn't trip, that was just as good as jumping over them.
Yep.
So
I've seen some really good hurdles that are hurdlers that they leave a trail of knocked over hurdles behind them as they go. Kevin Yeager from Farragut, probably one of the best hurdlers to come out of here in the last 2 decades, did that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were hurdles laying all over the track when he finished 100.
Well, Josiah, what's it like for you right now? Because you're sitting here, you've been to state, you know what it's like, but are butterflies building, or is it just I know what I'm doing? What's it?
It's I'm a little nervous just because I have a humongous target on my back right now because I won last year, so I know that I have people gunning for me, and it'll be I'm just trying to just keep the nerves calm and just do what I know that I can do, because again, if I just run my race, nobody's gonna be able to touch me in it.
So are you one of the ones who's chill right up until the point that the call comes out to report, or are you one of those who's moving around and warming up and can't sit still?
I'm moving around.
Oh, you can see when he's in the zone too before he races. Yeah, he definitely gets a focus on.
Well, we have one thing before we get out of here. I appreciate you guys coming in this morning, and we want to wish you the best of luck going forward when you get to state. Donnie, do you have something you might want to read out here? Because
I have a little something I would like
Chris
to
couldn't join us.
present.
Chris couldn't join us Wednesday night, and I don't know if the secret has held since then, but we'll find out.
I heard something about a Lonnie Award, but that's all I know.
Well, this is going to be the official presentation of the Lonnie Award. The Lon Hersburn Award, named after its first recipient. The Lonnie honors a lifetime of both achievement and service to the sports community in Blount County, with past winners including the likes of Kenny Coulter and Steve Hodson. And, of course, the original.
Great company.
Lonnie Hersburn.
Yeah.
Hersburn. Let me tell you a little bit about Lonnie before we move on.
Read it off, Donnie.
Lonnie was a 3-sport captain during his days at Woodrow Wilson High School in Washington, D.C. Still holds the D.C. school's single-game scoring record in basketball. Lon played for Coach Bowden Wyatt in football alongside the late Johnny Majors at the University of Tennessee, being named an All-American. He joined the Army after graduating from the Tennessee Vols, serving as a Ranger and a paratrooper while continuing to play football. He was named Most Valuable Player of the Fort Campbell team in 1960, and while stationed at Fort Eustis, was named Outstanding Service Player when his team won the Armed Forces Championship. He was the linebackers coach at Tennessee from 1969 to 1976, where he had a hand in molding All-American careers of Jack Reynolds, Jackie Walker, D.D. Lewis, Steve Kiner. He was asked by Coach Doug Dickey, to start a weight training program for the Vols, who had never had a weight training program before Lon got there. In 1976, Hersbrun opened Olympia Athletic Club in Maryville, which he and his family ran until 2018. He was also a co-founder of the Sports Page radio program, hosting the first season at Olympia in 1978 and was a regular on the show until his passing in 2022. Hersbrun was a member of the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and was enshrined in the Knoxville, the Washington, D.C., and the Blount County Sports Halls of Fame. This year's recipient embodies Lonnie's mantra from his book, A Burning Desire to Win, and he often quoted it on this show many times. He said, "To be a champion, you have to run with champions." A fixture in the county's running community, this recipient has coached all-state athletes in track and cross country at both Alcoa and William Blount High Schools, and this school year pulled the rare double of coaching William Blount at the state cross country championships in the fall, and was when we presented the award Wednesday night, was even then at the state decathlon with athletes from Alcoa. We are very pleased to announce Coach Chris Frary as the fourth recipient of the Lon Hersbrun Award. We'll present him with his Lonnie at this time. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you very much. That's a great honor.
And we hope that still came as a bit of a surprise.
It was a surprise. My wife had said something about that a friend who was at the thing had said something about, I think your husband won an award, but we had no idea what it was. So this is a wonderful, pleasant surprise and a great honor. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the time you've visited with the show. Every time we call, you make time to come visit with us and bring some of the athletes over, and we've always appreciated that. Like I said, we wish you all the best of luck coming up this week. Bring back a couple trophies, and
that's the goal.
Coach Frary was, when he was at William Blount High School, was selling bricks down at the stadium. You know, I guess to try to update the track or get the track, or I don't know what he was doing down there, but he was. And it was my first year, and I had all freshmen on my basketball team. I mean, we were young and green, and we weren't very mean. And we didn't win very many games, but I thought it was appropriate, you know, that we, as a basketball program, buy a brick down there. So I took the money to coach, and he said, okay, we'll get your brick down there. Do you want your record on there? I said, yeah, we are what we are. Put our record on there. I said, we don't have anywhere to go but up. So I don't know whether he remembers that story or not. But anyway, before we get out, Coach, are you retired now? I know, you know, Donnie and I were both at William Blount when you were there. Are you still teaching full-time?
I am. I'm retired from high school teaching. I'm teaching adjunct English at Pellissippi. I've got 3 classes of that in the fall, and I'm doing some graduation coach, little part-time work at Eagleton.
Very good.
And then coaching track at Alcoa. So
Very good.
My wife keeps telling me I haven't quite figured out this retirement thing.
Yeah,
I went from 1 job to 3 now.
Yeah.
There you
I,
go.
I think you figured it out
I
just
just
fine.
crisscross back and forth across the county to different jobs all the time.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it, and
Yeah.
especially with the coaching, this is something that I just truly love
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you, and good luck down at the States.
Thank you very much.
We'll look forward to seeing you again one of these
Appreciate
days.
it, Coach.
All right. Hey, time to turn the page. Up next will be the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service.
Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the Goteez Sports Page Player of the Week segment featuring Daily Times senior reporter Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, where quality service is always a priority. Proudly serving Blount County for over 100 years. Marcus Fitzsimmons, it's a track morning, and let's move across town to Maryville. Huh?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
All right.
Well, we're doing state previews here. You know, Spring Fling does. We didn't mention it before. Spring Fling does start on Monday.
Yeah.
It's not the first of the state championship. Donnie mentioned state decathlon and pentathlon were starting last week, and I believe flag football actually started on yesterday. But we are pleased to have some of the Maryville athletes we have been trying to get on, and I swear we've been trying to get y'all on since March. But not to be too pun intended, but y'all keep running away from us.
Yeah, well, hey, that's
Saturday,
what we do best.
Your Saturday mornings are a little bit busy.
Well, they're busy. They're
Yeah.
busy in the spring. You know, Saturdays are a big time for track and field.
That is for sure.
Events and so forth. You know. We ran into the same thing a lot of times in the fall with cross country, and you know.
So we're glad to get you on here before you go down there and get on the podium and get on the medal stand.
Yeah, yeah.
Coach, tell us a little bit about who you brought in this morning, and let's start with that because we've got some big moments to kind of highlight.
Of course. So we got two seniors right next to me and a freshman, by the way. So I have Emma Roberts, our distance extraordinaire. Every time I come to the track, she's running, and it's awesome to watch. It's awesome to witness her work and the time that she puts in, the commitment she has, and I mean, Emma Roberts is awesome.
We can pitch in here. She was the sports page cross-country runner of the year.
That is awesome. Yeah, yeah. I mean, her work speaks for itself. And as well, Anna Lee, she has been at it for I don't know how long, but I'd guess since birth. That's how good she is. She's also very committed, and whatever we ask her to do, Anna Lee does. And we're very thankful to have leadership like Emma and like Anna Lee. And then we had Maddie come in from basketball. She came out of nowhere like a strike of lightning, win 100 meters. And Anna Lee and Maddie Bergen just became best friends after that, and it's been fun watching them grow up together. And, you know, I wish they had a couple more years together. But, you know, we're going to enjoy as much as we can up until we go up to what I like to call Heaven's Gate, or Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
You might call it Heaven's Gate. I've got different words
I
for
got
it.
you.
4 days in that track and soccer stadium where there's no AC upstairs, that can be a little bit of a long week.
I can hear that, yeah.
And I am so looking forward. Caleb's sitting over here, and he's looking at me like, you didn't mention the no AC thing.
Yeah. I didn't sign up for this.
But you all had a tremendous finish at sectional.
Yeah.
Can you kind of recap for people who maybe missed it in the paper? Can you kind of recap what happened to close that out for sectional championship?
Yeah, so we started things off with field events at about as early as 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. We had a kid pole vault 13.6 first try.
Wow.
And that kid's been climbing trees and Sawyer Robinette since birth. I mean, this kid was made for pole vault, you know, and so he punched his ticket to state. I had a girl, Abby French. She punched her ticket to state first time as a sophomore in high jump, and then we turned it over to distance. We turned it over to sprinting, and you know, these girls, they did a lot better than boys. They came ready. They came with their lunches packed, and they had their notepad ready to take initials because they couldn't take names after, you know, taking care of business. So they did a great job. You know, Emma did a great job making her way to state in the 1600. You know, I've known her as 800 specialist, but she made it in the 1600, stayed strong throughout, punched her ticket. And then Anna Lee and Maddie, they took care of business in the 4x1 and 4x2. So they're going to be tired after state, but it's going to be well earned, and they have done a great job throughout. And we have some football boys going to state for the first time in their career ever. You know, they kind of let the moment get a little too big in the 4x1, 4x2. The handoffs were not as good, but 4x1 they collected themselves and they finished fourth, and they did a good job with that for first timers that we've had. So we usually get seniors who are football players. They play football all 4 years, and then they come to track because it's the last hurrah, might as well. So very super proud of these guys. The girls won the sectional for the second year in a row. Great job to them. Kudos to them. And it all comes back to coming in and doing your homework and running around that track until your feet fall off.
So I believe Josh kind of phrased it as it came down to the last relay. Was he accurate
4x4. Yep.
And you all weren't in front the entire time on that one. You needed some big legs to make that happen.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And I was watching the points from, I want to say about 5 o'clock on. Coach White's like, "Now, pal, I need you to watch the points." So I said, "Yes, sir." I'm not very tech savvy, but I figured out where I'm on 10-mile split. Our lead was as big as 16 and a half, and it went down to 2. Went up to 14, and it came back down to 1. And so we had heard through the grapevine that Science Hill was saving their best for the 4x4, saving their best runners. The coach took these girls out of the 800 just to run the 4x4. And so it was a battle, let me tell you. We were in the 4x4, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now. So we're running the 4x4. Annalie does a great job. Annalie, you started it off, didn't you?
No, I was second leg.
Okay, so my memory doesn't serve me very well, but Annalie did a great job getting us up in the top of the pack, top 2, and then Maddie gets the baton. And she does what no other freshman does. She fights. She fights hard, and she does the best she can. And then at the very end, at the 100, Science Hill is about 25, maybe 20 meters away. My eyes maybe not as good. But she hawked her down, as, track folks that call it, chased her down and passed her with ease. And she stood up tall at the finish line. And then she proceeded to collapse. But they did a great job throughout. And afterwards, I cut my hands and I go, "She's a freshman." So, I was so proud of them. I couldn't be down there with them because I had to watch the tents and stuff that we just put up and all the snacks. But, as a coach, you couldn't be more proud of that.
And, it is true. If you don't collapse, it doesn't count. They take your placing away. You don't actually get the medal if you don't collapse.
400, man, it feels like you're pouring concrete in your legs.
So I'll put the senior on the spot first, but and when you start off a relay like that, and it's close, how hard is it to stay loose, or does coach even not even tell you how close it is? Do they let you go in blind, just run your best?
We normally just run our best, and I know especially the sprint relays, we're super competitive, and we don't like to see people in front of us, and we usually don't have people in front of us. So we just run our race and do what we can, and we do our best.
On the 400 specifically, how long into the second leg are they before you can actually look up and get off the grass and see what's going on?
It's about until Maddie, who's fourth leg, until she's about the last 100 meters. And then I finally get up, and I'm like, "Go, Maddie!" But it takes about probably a lap and a half to get recovered.
Now, do you have a developed, and I'll put this to all of you, is there a developed technique to know where to collapse? Because you don't want to be where somebody else has already been or might fall on top of you. So you got to be able to get far enough in, but not where somebody else has already been. Is there a knack to that falling, or is it just find a spot?
Just find a spot and fall.
Okay. So, Emma, it's good to see you again. We saw you Wednesday night, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Senior year, that's the time where you could say, I've run. I know where I'm going to be running. I don't necessarily need to do one more year of track. I could just be doing prom and graduation and call this a day.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't.
No, sir.
So you just love that punishment, the distance events provide.
I do. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a very rewarding feeling after you've trained so hard and you go out there and you race and you have a PR. It's just very rewarding.
What's the difference for you going from the softer surface of 5K to putting it onto a circle on the harder surface. How much of a transition is that for you?
I actually really like the transition. I actually enjoy track a little bit more than I do cross country just because it's shorter distances. And
You don't get as muddy either.
that's true. That's true. The courses of cross country to me are so much harder because it's hilly and you gotta like take all these different crazy routes. But like track is just a circle, and so not that it's easy. It's not easy at all, but it is easier to like have a quicker time because you're not having to go up and down a hill or whatever. So I enjoy the transition a lot actually.
Okay, tracks must have improved a lot because when I was running, there were some of those tracks that I think did have hills and made weird turns in them to get around. And I'm not going to name those schools specifically, but I understand they're better now.
Yeah. Marcus, I got a question here. It's a statement, more or less, what it is. Is the 400 classified as a sprint or a distance run?
It's a
First of
sprint.
all.
It's
I'd
a
say
sprint,
sprint.
yeah.
Okay, that leads to my next question. When did it change? Because the 400 used to be a paced run with a kick.
Yeah, me and Coach White kind of, I listen to him. He calls it mid-distance. So 400, 800, mid-distance maybe, maybe 1,600. There is some pacing in there, but with 400, at times you kind of have to do an all-out sprint. So it's
we watch it now, and it seems like it is a sprint the entire
faster,
lap.
Yeah.
Whereas Donnie's right. There was a point where there was a coaching that you started off fast and coasted through the second 200 and then sprinted the end. Because I think the approach to that 400 specifically has changed a lot in the last 20, 30 years.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it has. And athletes have to be much better conditioned today to run the 400 than they used to.
I call it the man's or the women's race. It separates the men from the boys and separates the women from the girls.
Most definitely.
And it's tough. And, you ask the sprinters, we're going to make you do the 4x4. And it's like you ask them, you're going to Vietnam, son. so they get a little scared. But, these girls right next to me, they do anything for you. And as a coach,
that's what you want.
Yeah, that's all you need right there.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, being the freshman, can we pick on you then? All right. So, you can't be that far from packing up to go to state. It's only measured in hours at this point. What's the best thing they have told you so far as advice as to what to do and how to get ready for state?
Honestly, to eat good is really important, and to like sleep good is. But that's basically all I do. I just kind of mentally prepare.
So the seniors haven't pulled you aside and said, you need to do this. You need to pack this.
No,
you need
not
to be
really.
Okay. So obviously they're setting you up. You should, so you know. Because there are tracks to Dean Hayes Track Stadium, and how to keep from cooking or drowning depending on the weather.
That's a good point. I bought some shoe covers because last year it rained so hard I lost a pair of shoes to the mud. So I got some shoe covers from Amazon.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah.
I understand they're still coming out of the grass back there.
Yep.
For folks who don't know, last year we had I think it ended up being about a 4.5 hour delay, where it just stormed. It's kind of like what we saw here last night. But the holding area at MTSU is a natural surface grass area behind the track for the team set up tents. So when that came down, it had already been saturated. There were things that just disappeared into the mud before that night was over. By the time we got started again, things got pounded in. It got dark back there, and it's just part of the fun. It's going to state, but you'd rather be going to state than not, right?
Exactly.
So, what is the best thing about going to state? What you've been y'all know kind of what it's like. What's the best thing about it?
I think like developing deeper connections with your teammates and just having fun, and you work so hard for so long, and then you finally get to like show off your hard work, and we usually do a very good job of doing that at state.
So, do the coaches and parents take care of you guys, or do you all have to do you all have to help set up the tents and bring in coolers, or is that totally on the parents and coaches to do?
No, we help out, and we're here for our coaches just as much as our coaches are here for us. So we help them set up. They do so much for us, so we kind of just pay them back.
Now, who is the calm one, coach? Who's the one who's not going to move until they make or almost a second call on the event before they're going to get off the mat and tent and get up there and go out to the track?
That's a good question. I'd say, Maddie over here. She's just so calm and cool. She's all American girl, and she's like, all right, I guess I'll go out there. But
And who's the wiggle worm that's not going to sit still all day?
Natalie. She loves control, and she wants to get out there and get it done. So yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, we wish you the best of luck, and more importantly, we wish you great weather this year. Unfortunately, I'm going to say people plan their grass cutting around when state championships are because they know it's going to rain that week. So we'll just hope that's not on your day. We'll say that. But thank you all for getting up and coming in and visiting with us this morning. We appreciate it. And Coach, thank you for bringing them in, anchoring them in right here.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And Mike, we'll go ahead and turn the page.
Okie doke, Mark. It's time for a break. When we return, it's the Boyd Sports Spotlight segment. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa
Good luck to you guys.
served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store.
Moving
It
on.
can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925. Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd's Sports Spotlight segment. And I'm here with sports page veteran Donnie Moore and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and Carson Newman assistant football coach Tony Iruli and Daily Times sports reporter Caleb Jarreau. And let's first of all, before we get started here, Donnie, we need to tell everybody who brings us this segment.
This is true, and this, of course, is brought to you by the fine folks that that's what our boss tells us to say anyway.
Fine folks, yes.
Fine folks at Fast Signs.
Whoosh. So you got to get the hand. not wish, but whoosh.
Yeah.
Great sponsors.
They
Great
are.
sponsor, yes.
Caleb Jarreau, let's talk a little bit about this Tennessee baseball team. They've lost, I believe, 4 weekend series in a row going into this weekend. Is that correct? Am I reading that right?
Sounds right.
yeah.
I want to say 5 of 6 if you look at the whole picture.
And
I would
tied
say
1 game apiece in this one.
Yeah.
I would say that they're in the struggling category.
They are riding the struggle bus.
Yeah. You look at some past Tennessee teams, and this is probably the first one in at least 3 or 4 years that is not playing its best baseball at the end of the year. You think back to the 2023 team comes to mind where they also didn't get to host the postseason, but they were playing good baseball at the end of the year, so it didn't matter. This one, I don't know. It feels like they can't field it, and they're not hitting home runs anymore. So
they're not getting a lot of pitching either. They're scoring a lot of runs against the pitching staff. Looks to me like.
Early in the season, they were ranked #1 in the country.
Yeah, they were, and they're
just slowly falling off.
They're 17th now, Coach. So they've they've fallen down. I mean, I think this is the lowest they've been all year, 17th.
So. Yeah.
So
because they started super high and played good at the beginning of the year too.
Yeah.
Rolled through everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. This weekend series with Arkansas, I think I read we're going down to they've never won down there.
I think it's been since 2005.
2000. Well, that's been a while.
So it's been a while since they've won a series at Arkansas.
That's 20 years. That's 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 been a while. And they, of course they won 10-7 on Thursday night, but last night they lost 6-8. So
yeah,
now they're going to play the rubber game. This is a little unusual because they usually play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but they're playing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I assume because of the SEC tournament coming up next week. But that game today is at 3 p.m. and you can watch it on the SEC network there this afternoon. But I guess my question, Caleb, but at this particular point, of course, everything's still on the line with the tournament coming up, SEC tournament, chance to do well there, and then of course, hopefully they'll get a home bid starting the tournament. But if you're looking at the worksheet right now, are you putting this in the disappointing category?
I mean, when you look at how much the team lost from last year and how many transfers they had to bring in, I think you have to take that into account. And part of me, too, is this team wants to play like the teams of the past when they aren't the teams of the past. This is not a team that's going to hit 100 home runs in a season, and they can't hit shutouts every night. So they need to, play a little differently. And that's when those defensive miscues have kind of come out, and they kind of look even bigger. Or you can't control the run game, so all of a sudden, since you're not hitting 5 home runs a game, those stolen bases start to add up. So I think if they get a win today, I don't think they're comfortably hosting, but they're definitely in the conversation. But at this point, I think you want to go on the road if you're Tennessee and play as a 2 seed in somebody else's regional, because they've played a ton better on the road this season than they have at home. And I think that kind of chip on their shoulder could help them in the postseason. And I don't know, SEC tournament this year, I don't know how much you weigh the performance there for postseason anyway. So I don't know what next week will hold for them. But I think a win today would be big, but also if you're Tennessee, I don't know if you mind being a 2 seed somewhere. I think they were projected most recently by D1 Baseball to go to West Virginia as the number 2 seed. So that would be a smaller park they could play in. But once again, you're on the road and you have that chip on your shoulder. It might spark a little bit of offense.
Should be a fun tournament. As many great teams as they've got in this league.
Yeah.
It's the best league in the country. So it's one of those deals where Coach Iruli, if you get beat, you don't need to be ashamed, because the team that beats you is as good, if not better, than you are.
I mean, the SEC out of top 17, what are they? Like 10 of the top 17 or 12 of the top 17?
Pretty much the whole league.
Yeah. But I just think I agree with what you guys are saying. I think the big difference to this team is that in the past they could just hit the long ball and just bash it.
At any time.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the number 8 or 9 hitters in the lineup, coming up with big home runs.
And no lead was safe against them.
No.
No lead was safe.
They
had a lot of come from behind wins last year.
They put 5 or 6 runs in the last 2 or 3 innings and come up with great wins, but they're just not having it.
I look at these ballparks in the SEC, and gosh, Caleb, they all look like minor league ballparks. What a job the SEC's done in their facilities, and it seems to be ongoing.
When they're at Arkansas this weekend. When I went there for football this past season, they were playing their fall World Series when we were there in that baseball stadium. And it was packed. Like they had a SEC Friday night crowd for the fall series, and it's a really nice park. And there's a lot of these parks that are nice. And Lindsey Nelson, once they finish these renovations, will probably be right there with them too.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, the last 15, 20 years, it's been a facilities battle among all the schools. I mean, big-time money's been put into baseball, football, basketball, all the facilities like this, and that's kind of the
and all the players.
Yeah, and no, what it's doing now.
Don't forget the players.
Yeah, what I'm saying is there's going to be a shift now where that money, where it used to be a facilities battle, now it's going to be shifted to the players. All right, and so there's going to be less money going to facilities in the future, because now the money is going to that second-string backup quarterback for $2 million.
Lady ball softball team hosting the regional play over in Knoxville. They took care of Miami of Ohio in a big way. They're on Friday 17-0, and they play Ohio State today. They're a number 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. This is the 20th straight season that the Lady Vol softball team has made the tournament, and they're ranked third nationally. They're fourth in the SEC, which is kind of ironic. Third nationally, fourth in the SEC, and then they're the 7th seed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Well, you say that
a lot of
again.
different
They're
numbers.
third nationally.
Third nationally, fourth in the SEC. They finished fourth in the SEC.
Okay, and the third nationally.
Third nationally.
And seventh in what?
7th seed in the
Seventh
SEC tournament.
seed in the tournament. So, yeah.
I can't figure that one
Looks
out.
like a difference of opinion to me, but that's just me talking. Depends on who you talk to. Yeah.
They got a competitive draw in that in their regional this weekend too. But luckily for them, every team has a high-powered offense, but their pitching is shaky. And for Tennessee, their offense is shaky, but they have good pitching. So the matchup hopefully does well for them today. But hey, on the other side, they would host LSU in a super regional, but LSU lost yesterday to Southeastern Louisiana. So if Tennessee keeps winning and LSU doesn't make it out of that losers bracket, they'll probably have a pretty easy road back to Oklahoma City in that super regional.
That'd be good. The Vol, Tony, the Vol football opener against Syracuse has been set. It's for August the 30th, and they're going to play it in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, high noon, 12 o'clock on ABC.
Showdown.
So
That's a good opener for both teams.
It is.
I know Syracuse's offensive coordinator, Jeff Nixon, and I coached together up at Shippensburg. He's still a good friend of mine, and he's done a great job. He's been coaching in the NFL. But I think I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matchup. Again, the big question is going to be, what's Tennessee's quarterback situation?
Yeah, who's it going to be?
Who's it going to be and all? But to me, I think you're going to see, I think, two evenly matched teams going in and opening up.
That brings me to the next question I want you to answer here. Urban Meyer, of course, won a national championship at Florida, won a national football championship at Ohio State. Pretty knowledgeable guy. And he said there a week or so ago that he has looked at the film on Joey Aguilar that was brought in here, that the Vols have brought in here from UCLA to play quarterback. And he has weighed in. Urban has weighed in on the Nico situation and what's happening since at the quarterback situation at Tennessee. And he's come to the conclusion that Tennessee's screwed. That's the term he has used. Tennessee is screwed. So do you agree with Urban or not, Coach Irwin?
Tennessee's screwed?
They're screwed.
Or been screwed.
Whichever.
Yeah.
They're in trouble.
They're in trouble like that. Yeah, well, the person that the quarterback they got from UCLA, he hasn't played at UCLA. He came from Appy State, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
So actually they're getting the quarterback from Appy State to be at their place. And, I mean, Nico, I think, obviously had a lot of talent and all that, but unfortunately, his dad kind of got involved in things and kind of shifted things around a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, again, I got confidence in Tennessee's head football coach. I mean, he's going to find a way to get things done. And
so you're looking for another playoff team next year out of Tennessee?
I don't quite think it's going to be a playoff team.
Oh.
I don't think it's going to be quite a playoff team.
So you're looking at lower bowl. You thinking Music City Bowl or the Mayonnaise Bowl
or the Mayonnaise Bowl
down
or
at Charlotte
or the Honaker Bowl
the
here
Duke's
in
Bowl?
Maryville?
Yeah, Honaker.
Liberty Bowl. Are you thinking in those terms? Because if you're thinking major bowls, you can't hardly say major bowls anymore because the major bowls are all in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
right. I think it did hurt them losing Nico, but them standing up for their principal, I think, long term is going to be more beneficial for Tennessee. Yeah. But it did hurt. But he's gone to UCLA where just came out there in a huge financial mess over UCLA, like what $270 million of the hole, and financially, and so it's like we're saying, it's strange days that are going on in NCAA football right now. In fact, we need to stop calling it college football. It's not college football. It's minor league football.
That's what it is.
Who happens to be playing on a college field. All right, but it is not college football anymore.
No, it's pros.
Yeah,
it's pros. Caleb, do you agree with Urban, Coach Meyer, on what
I don't
assessment
know
of what's going on here with the
I
Vols?
think I don't know why he thinks Tennessee is screwed, because truthfully, when you look at the schedule with Nico as the quarterback, or with Joey Aguilar as the quarterback, or with Jake Merklinger as the quarterback, or with George McIntyre, what difference does it make for Tennessee with that schedule? They probably would still lose at Florida. They would probably still lose to Georgia. They'll probably still lose to Alabama.
Whoa, stop right there. Stop right there because you just listed the big three that the fans just can't tolerate losing to.
But Tennessee took very good teams to Alabama and Florida and lost. What difference would Nico make?
I understand.
Because the real problem with this team is who's your running back? You don't have a Dylan Sampson anymore. That's going to hurt you next year. And you've got 4 or 5 scholarship wide receivers. 6 scholarship wide receivers and 2 are freshmen. So your problems are a lot bigger than the quarterback. I think the only surefire thing on this team is that they'll play good defense. So see where that takes you.
Yeah.
But I agree with Tony that, Heupel's an offensive coach. So even with all these things stacked against him, I still think the offense will be manageable at best. I don't think they'll ever be terrible.
I think what you're trying to tell me right there, that this team really doesn't have a real go-to superstar-looking player.
Not one that's come out yet, at least.
Good, because I want to get over to Marcus Fitzsimmons right here for my next question.
That's a great lead-up.
We got about $20.5 million of money we're going to get. It's all settled there with the NCAA that they're going to be able to divvy up. And then we're going to have another, at UT, they're predicting maybe another $15 million NIL money. So with this no all-star, no lead guy on the football team, how are you going to divvy up that $35 million, and who's going to do it? Who's going to be the guy to divvy it up, and who's going to say, don't have a general manager?
That's the problem, is you don't really know without a GM who will be making those decisions. Is it going to be an athletic department level decision, or is it going to be a team level decision where they're working with the money that the AD says they have? Or is it going to be something that comes through the AD's office? I mean, you've just added a whole level of complexity to the entire coaching situation as to – because now they're going to be fighting for their share of that pot that they can spend to make sure their kids are taken care of or to be competitive. And that's going to be a different case than with, say, the rowing team, where they're just making sure their kids get at least something, to – basketball and football playing back and forth as to who's going to get who's going to have $3 million to drop on that player who wants to transfer.
Yeah.
They might leave that up to a guy by the name of Manning.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be the best one at it. I really don't. But what I would say is, I like that this team doesn't have its star, doesn't know what it's going to be doing. I think that lowers the expectations, which need to be lowered. And I think it also takes all the pressure off that was going to be a potential problem, was we're going to have this quarterback that everybody's starting to like, and they're not winning. And that creates a rift. So I think we've gotten rid of that problem or potential problem. But having a group that's got nothing to lose, I like that. I really do.
Yeah, well, it makes me a little uneasy, to be honest with all of you. Makes me a little uneasy. Got a lot of inexperience out there. You don't have a proven quarterback coming back, and I'll tell you, the track record's not good on that. If you don't have a proven guy coming back at quarterback or somebody
that's how he
with
started.
experience.
I mean, Heupel's first season, they didn't. I mean, you had 2 transfers that hadn't really played anywhere. I mean, they played, but they hadn't. At best, had like 7 or 8 games underneath their belt.
And what were they the first year?
I'll tell you one thing, though.
You remember what the record was the first year?
Better than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well.
Were they 8-4?
8-4. Yeah,
we were talking about. We were wondering if they were going to win 5.
But the problem is now you're coming off a trip to the playoffs, and I don't know whether 8-4 is going to cut it.
No.
But
I think it will, because I think the fan base is going to.
This fan
base is going to give them a season off.
This fan base doesn't tolerate anything hardly. It's just, what can you do for me this year? Pretty much. Don't you think, Coach Aruli?
Yeah,
I mean, we got a whole different fan base here in both places.
But
if you're talking
you got to remember where they were.
If you're talking about Indiana University and Purdue University, yeah, we're going to be tolerant every year. But we're talking about Tennessee football down here, guys.
Well, I will have to agree with Marcus. All right, that you don't hear that very often, but I agree with Mark.
I know.
That,
most people don't.
I think people understand that they lost their number 1 guy in spring, and it looks like Hell's Angels are just coming through here right now.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of them too.
A lot of leather jackets.
They're heading out to the shed, man.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where they're going.
So anyway, I think Tennessee fans will be a little bit more understanding. what happens during the season, because they did lose Nico, and Nico's their main guy, and just it's hard to replace a guy at that level.
I understand.
At
They
the
lose to Syracuse down in Mercedes-Benz schedule, and we'll have this discussion. We'll have this discussion, okay? Because that Syracuse game down there, they're not bad.
No, they're not.
And we got a lot of question marks.
They've got a good coach.
We got a lot of question marks going into that game, and they're coming in. You don't want to overlook that, and I know you're looking at the big three, Georgia and Florida and Alabama, but you got Oklahoma on there. They're going to probably be improved, and
that trip to Kentucky's a little weird.
Yeah,
It's hard. I mean,
the schedule looks. In a normal year, you'd say the schedule, looks pretty accommodating.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got an inexperienced team and you don't have a proven quarterback, I think you can kind of throw out the accommodating schedule a little bit, Caleb. Can you not? Or?
You don't have much experience on the offensive line. You got two really good tackles that you think will be good. You don't have experience at quarterback. You don't have experience at running back. You've got a couple wide receivers who have experience, but they weren't really good last year.
Yeah.
You lost your top safety to the portal, even though he's from Tennessee and said he loved Tennessee. He's in the portal. Your DB room is questionable.
Likes the money more.
Yeah. You've got the only
Imagine that.
the only things you got are you got a strong linebacker room and a strong defensive line.
Yeah.
So
okay.
But hey, Syracuse has a new quarterback too.
Yeah.
Syracuse named a starting quarterback in spring practice and then got a guy in the spring portal. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Who's the actual starter?
Yep. Well,
Send one of them to Tennessee.
Well, we're not far off. August the 30th. I mean, that's still summer. We're not too far away from everything. Got some sports news. Let's talk about Pimlico today. 9 horses. That's about half that was in the Derby, Donnie.
The field's a whole lot smaller.
In the Preakness Stakes today, Journalism that finished second in the Kentucky Derby looks to be the favorite. I think he's about 8-5. Traditionally, horses that did well in the Kentucky Derby also do well in the Preakness Stakes, so we'll look for him to do pretty well today. But we're not going to have a Triple Crown winner because the horse that won the Kentucky Derby is not going to go, and I think that takes a little bit of the shine off. Do you not, Donnie?
It does, but things have changed in the last few years. It used to be trainers put a whole lot of importance on vying for the Triple Crown, but due to the fact that the common sentiment is that those races are held too close together, then that's kind of taking, like you said, taking the shine off.
Do you ever feel like they'll make a move to say, okay, instead of 2 weeks separation, make it 3 weeks?
I think
or
they'll have
longer.
To.
I think it would be good. I think it would be good just to
month.
separate them, and I think it would create more interest as you go along to do that.
I think they'll have to do it eventually.
I think it would be a good
time to
it'd be a good
adjust
move.
the schedule a little bit.
And I think it'd be the right time to do it because they're improving these race courses.
Yes,
Belmont's they're working on it, and then they're going to go to work on Pimlico as soon as this race is over to update it. Might be the time to look at that Triple Crown and see about a new format.
I think you're right. If you stretch it out a little bit, that keeps the interest in horse racing because a lot of times horse racing ends within that 6-week period, and so now you extend the Triple Crown races for another week or two. I mean, that just kind of keeps the interest going.
And if you do that stack where you've got May, June, July, chances are 2 of the 3 races are going to be dry.
Yeah,
right. That's not a given right now, right? I think what was it last year, the year before? It rained on all 3.
That's correct. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where they both like at least 2 of them were mud baths, and one of them I think it was just a soft track.
Yeah. Post time set for 7:01 this evening, and American Promise seems to be a challenger, and that horse is trained by D. Wayne Lucas. So we got kind of Hall of Fame trainers here. We got Bob Baffert. He's got a horse in there, Gone Oriented. He's won the Preakness 8 times. Baffert has, and then you got Todd Pletcher. He's trying to win the Preakness for the first time, and he's got River Thames in there. So we'll see what happens today. And Donnie, you got Sandman back. Sandman, isn't that who?
Sandman's back.
Wasn't that your horse in the Derby?
But he had a visit from the Sandman. He went to sleep out of the gate.
Well, maybe he was sandbagging.
He could have been.
Donnie built us all up, and then his horse forgot to run.
He did. Yeah.
Hey, now I got a question. What, you know, again, I've been accused of not being the smartest guy around, but why do they have a post time at 7:01?
I don't know.
Why don't you just say, hey, it's
Strange.
7 o'clock.
I don't know.
I mean,
Well, it's probably 7 o'clock, but they just think it's hard to get it on time. So
remember when the
gives them
race
another
used to
minute.
actually run in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, like at 4.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock. Then it was 4 o'clock. Then it was 5 o'clock. Now it's like almost nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7:01.
Anybody remember the last Triple Crown winner?
It was 2008.
What was that, a firm?
Add 10 years to that.
I thought it was 2018.
I don't think
2018.
Yeah.
That's when it was Justified.
Justified.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that one.
Yeah.
Last Triple Crown winner. So it's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
it's been a few years.
Yeah. Hey, they're qualifying at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway today and tomorrow to set the field for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. The race was announced yesterday by the Speedway that the Indy 500 will be a complete sellout. That means there will be 250,000 people in the stands in a seat, and then on the infield there will be another 150,000. And
That's where you've been.
I'll be there. And parking, it will be a problem, and it will be another long walk. To get to the track, but that's all part of it. But Alex Palou, he's won 4 of the 5 IndyCar races to start the season. And right now, I think on top of the board in the morning practice, had that here. I think Felix Rosenquist was on top of 234 miles an hour.
Ooh,
234. Wow. Now that's an average. That's
Yeah,
not 230.
right.
That means that you're going over 240 down the straightaway.
Yeah.
So he's
Good
getting real
grief.
close into track record category, which is held by I think Ari Lyondike at 236. Miles per hour, so they're moving up there.
There are going to be a bunch of fans there, and it's going to be crowded, Mike. But the good news is, when you're there, the weather forecast.
Unbelievable. 72 degrees
72
right now. Right now, of course, that's wrong range. 72 degrees. I think at race morning, you're looking at about 57 degrees. And when they
like
go
being in
off
a
at the
cave.
start, so I'm telling you, 72 degrees up there in those stands, man, you think you died and gone to heaven.
Yes.
I've been up there when it's been like pushing 100. 95 with a heat index of at least 100. So
yes.
Not
if
good
that's the
news for
case,
the beer vendor.
Yeah, buddy.
How long of a walk is it
Sell
from
a lot
your
of
parking
hot
area?
cocoa, though.
Well, we park in a residential area, and it's about 2 miles. And then the group that I'm with, we've had a tradition the last several 500s that after we get there, we leave Lafayette. That's where we stay, and then we leave there about 5 o'clock in the morning, get to the track, and we get there and we start breathing it all in by walking all the way around the track.
Oh,
so
my
we
goodness.
walk the 2 miles to the track, and then we start on the 4th turn and we walk completely all the way around. It's the most relaxing walk you've ever taken in your life. You get to see everybody, and going down the back stretch, there's not very many people back there, and I think the year before last we look over to the left and the paratroopers were over there that jumps out of the planes.
Yeah.
They were sitting over there sleeping, before they got their ride. But it's
Suffice it to say, you will get your steps in.
Yeah, the 500. Everybody thinks it's the race, but if you go, it's Memorial Day weekend.
It's the spectacle.
It's Memorial Day weekend, and there's a lot of tributes to the military, and they have a lot of military there, and the flyover, and the parachutes, and all that go on. It's a really it's a spectacle. The only thing that I do miss is that several years ago they did away with the balloon release. They used to sing Back Home Again in Indiana and release the thousands and thousands of balloons.
Jim Neighbors.
But the environmentalists got into all of that and said, well, the birds are eating the birds, and the cows are eating the cows are eating the birds. And
The cows are eating the birds.
Cows are eating the balloons and the birds,
Carnivorous
whatever.
cows.
What is happening in Indiana?
Cats and dogs living together.
They were getting the balloons in the system, and they said, okay, we got to stop it. So until they make a balloon that goes up so far and just
obliterates.
Well, have someone get a hold of Trump, and he'll do an executive order.
So what did they find? Like bird poop with an Indy 500 logo in it?
I guess. I don't
how do you-
know.
how do they
I
know
don't
that it
know.
How
I don't
do they
know.
know it
But
was a 500's balloon?
But I just really hate it because it was a great tradition to see all those balloons. I mean, you're talking about thousands. I hate to blow all of them up.
Yeah.
They just opened this tent up, and all the balloons would just come out of there, and then it was a really neat deal. But Kyle Larson, he's trying to do the double
Doing the
again.
double.
Big story. He's tore up 2 cars. He tore up a car a month ago in practice, and he tore up one there yesterday.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to get things together for sure. And yeah, it's things are all set up there. And of course, you got Joseph Newgarden that's fixing to go for. He's got a chance to win 3 straight. No driver has ever won that. Of course, he's a Tennessee guy.
He sure is.
There's been a lot of them that's won 2 in a row, but there's never been one to win 3. So that's going to be a big story up there as we look at the 500.
Indeed.
Hey, we'll take a timeout here, and we'll be back with some more of the Goteez Sports page and finish out today's show and the shows for this year, so to speak. Hey, you're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and I'm here with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons and Coach Tony Iruli and Caleb Giroux. And I was just telling Coach Iruli here, Jimmy Johnson's going to be driving the pace car at Indianapolis, and Tom Brady, will be alongside him in the pace car. So that'll be kind of exciting.
Brady's riding shotgun.
I guess so. Hey, NASCAR news: Kyle Larson won his 3rd Cup race of the season last Sunday at Kansas City, and of course now he'll try to qualify at Indianapolis, and then hopefully the race will go as scheduled, and he can move from Indianapolis to Charlotte and do the double.
The double.
Yeah. That's 600. That's 1,100 miles.
Well, that's brutal.
That's
One
1,100
day.
miles. I wouldn't want to drive 1,100 miles in a passenger car.
No.
Has
Let it
anyone,
go.
Not in a week.
has anyone ever won both of them?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No.
Just participating is
No.
a big deal.
Yeah. And, NASCAR, I believe they're at North Wilkesboro. Huh? North
Yeah, for
Wilkesboro?
that
All-Star.
All-Star
All-Star
race.
deal,
Yeah.
yeah.
Has anybody ever won one of them that's done the double?
No.
I don't think they have either.
No, there has never been a NASCAR driver, or used to call them stock car drivers,
Yeah.
that have won at Indianapolis.
My
They've
goodness.
never won. Now, there's been some great ones there. Leroy and Cale Yarborough, the Allison boys, Donnie and
Yeah.
Bobby Allison drove there, and Bobby Johns, go on down the line, the line there. Cale Yarborough and Leroy Yarborough, and they've had some good finishes, but they've never won it. Never won it.
Taking the
So,
checkered flag.
but I'm going to tell you, Kyle Larson's the real thing. If he can get his
he's
car
good.
together and he's got a good ride there this month, he could be the first. He certainly could.
Indeed.
Yeah. New movie coming out, Formula One racing movie with Brad Pitt. Film set to release in the United States
Saw
on
that trailer.
June the 27th. And that trailer just came out. and
Yeah.
The movie is directed by Top Gun Mavericks Joseph Kosinski. So the guy that did Top Gun
Really?
is doing this one. So you got I always enjoyed the Top Gun movies. So
Oh, yeah,
we'll
good,
see
good
how this
films.
we'll see how this goes. And Brad Pitt, I like his movies. And
Yeah, so
He's a good actor.
So do they wreck the car and then run into the garage and find a 30-year-old antique and immediately get it running and get it on the track? And
or does Brad Pitt run over some Russians in the movie?
I don't know.
That'd be a great movie.
I'd love to see that.
I don't think you're allowed to do that in
one of the
F1.
cars and take them out.
Yeah. Well, they've had some good. I think they've had some good auto racing. I thought Ford versus Ferrari was a.
That's a really good
movie.
I really like
good
that one.
film.
Yeah,
I
I
enjoyed that
thought
one.
it was really good. And,
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and then they had the one about the Formula One driver there several years ago that Opie directed. Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That was also a good movie. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the ACC. Coach Iruli, they're going to distribute a record $45 million per school in 1923 and 24. That's their
TV revenue.
That's their cut and everything. So
Yeah. Wow.
it wasn't outside of Duke basketball. Wasn't really an outstanding. Of course, Clemson made the playoffs.
Right.
But from top to bottom, not probably a really good year.
Not
in
a great,
basketball.
not a great year. No.
Is that money enough to keep Florida State and Clemson from trying to lead the conference?
I don't know. That's quieted down a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, and
if you're looking at that money pay off and looking at the SEC,
yeah,
I know the answer to that question if they could jump, but so.
I mean, all intents and purposes is exactly right. Keeping Clemson and Florida State.
Yeah.
In the ACC.
Because Florida State was ready to leave and then had a horrible season and everything they stopped talking so much. Yeah.
They did.
I mean, their hearing's still set, but they quit pressing to get the dates moved up.
Quit leaking everything to all the newspapers too.
Sorry, boss.
Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers quarterback has agreed to a 5-year, $265 million deal. That includes $181 million in overall guaranteed money.
He's going to be averaging about $57 million a year. And he's still not the highest paid quarterback.
That's livable.
in the
Don't you
NFL.
think that's livable?
In California, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of taxes.
I could live on it, but
Hitting him up.
here,
Yeah.
What if you play for the 49ers out there and you live in Arizona? Can you make residence somewhere else and keep from?
No, the
paying
rule
those
is it's where the game is played.
So where you're employed.
where your home games are played.
So like when in the NBA when they play, like the Knicks play in Toronto, they have to pay taxes to Canada for what they make for that game.
Oh, really? Well,
So-
that makes
that's
sense.
a difficult tax situation.
Oh, it's
figure all that
that's
out.
why they really
It's a
do have to
nightmare.
have an accountant, because depending on what venues you're playing in, you may owe state and local taxes for what you earned while you were because your place of employment is technically that arena.
I got you.
Is how they view it.
So wherever it's played.
Now whether that's going to factor into college, I don't know, because I
that
think
is a good one.
the laws are very narrowly written to encompass professional sports, but now that college is professional sports, I don't know how it's going to work out.
Minor league.
Because they're also going to be technically state employees. So
Hey, just going back to the best racing movies, you forgot the best one, Talladega Nights.
Yeah, Talladega Nights. Yeah, that was.
I mean,
Ricky Bobby.
With Ricky Bobby, I mean, there's nothing more.
If you're not first, you're last.
There's nothing more than racing than Talladega Nights. That's to me, that's the number one.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Throw in Lightning McQueen. Cars.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3.
Oh, always one.
Okay.
Yeah. The one I was trying to think about was the one about Nicky Lauda. Where he got had the accident and
Yeah, I
was
saw
burned and
that
he
one.
come back. That was a
Yeah,
pretty good.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, pretty good. Talk about the NBA right here in a few minutes. The Indiana Pacers seem to be a little bit of the talk in the NBA.
No doubt.
The comeback kids, and they're set to play the New York Knicks, who took care of the Boston Celtics with that series coming up, and the Pacers took care of Milwaukee and took care of a pretty good Cleveland team, and I think each of those series only lasted about 5 games.
Yeah, it didn't last
Yeah, I
long.
think that's right, Coach.
And that was a
Rivera.
big win that the Knicks did over the Celtics, 1-6 game.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to that series. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves are already in the West. They've already punched their ticket, and then I guess Oklahoma City and Denver will decide that here this weekend.
I'm just glad it's not the same teams over and over.
Yeah.
New teams this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Lots of
me
new
too.
faces.
yeah.
And in the WNBA, the Fever, with the addition of those twin blondies, enforcers that they've gotten this year, and with Caitlin Clark, they ought to be pretty formidable.
Yeah.
They start the season today.
They do. That's right.
The line at 6 a.m. they were lining up for the Caitlin Clark jerseys.
Isn't it amazing that
goodness.
how one player can just change the whole focus and the whole financial situation of a league?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a
I mean,
team,
if I was
too.
a player in the league, I mean, I would be, they won't say it, thanking her because she's the one that's kind of brought the whole renaissance going on in the WNBA.
Well, they're just it's to their benefit, isn't it,
Sure
Coach?
is.
For her to draw the people everywhere she goes, she draws good crowds.
Indiana has her, and they have Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, which are two
Yeah.
of the most popular players in the league,
I
both
think-
in Indiana.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
ticket sales has gone up like 125%.
They end up
from last
playing in
year.
NBA arenas a lot, too.
One of those new blonde players, I can't remember each one of them's name, but one of them was quoted as saying she was going to be the protector of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, they probably do need an enforcer. Well, in a way, when the Chicago Bulls, with Michael Jordan, that's people would be going after him, and they had
Sure.
what's his name?
That deal with Pippen.
Yeah.
And
Dennis
the
Rodman.
worm,
Yeah, that's
and
what
the
Dennis-
worm, yeah.
Dennis Rodman, that was his job.
Rodman was the
Was to
enforcer,
protect,
and he was good at it
He
too.
was very good at it.
Yeah. I got a few things on this day in sports. 1925, talking about baseball, Cleveland Indians' Tris Speaker gets his 3,000th hit. 1927, the Chicago Cubs beat the Boston Braves 4-3 in 22 innings.
Ooh, what a game!
Yeah, I bet he got your money's worth there watching that one. 1959, Sam Snead sets a PGA record for 36 holes at 122. And have any of you guys been up to Canada? Been up, drove around Canada?
I've been across the
I've
border.
driven
You go up to
Yeah,
Canada,
ways, yeah.
there's Tim Horton coffee and donut shops
Tim
everywhere.
Hortons. Yeah,
Everywhere.
That's right.
Well, the first one opened in 1964. And, of
Good
course, he was
grief.
a former NHL player. But if you go up there, you're going to see these.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty nice places to get you a donut and a cup of coffee. But everywhere.
Yeah.
1969, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh agreed to go from the NFC to the AFC in the NFL.
Huh.
You know, remember
that's right.
they were AFC.
That's right.
Yeah,
they were NFL.
NFL teams back then, and pretty prominent ones. You think of Baltimore with Johnny Unitas, and Cleveland with Jim Brown, and
Yeah, who's the other one? What was the
Pittsburgh.
Other? Pittsburgh. That's
yeah.
right.
1970, Hank Aaron becomes the 9th player to get 3,000 hits. 1973, Joe Ferguson of the Los Angeles Dodgers hits the Dodgers' 6,000th Dodger home run.
Wow.
6,000th home run.
Goodness.
1978,
Storied
Los Angeles
institution.
Dodger Lee Lacy hits a record 3rd consecutive pinch hit home run.
I
How about
remember
that
Lee
deal?
Lacy.
Yeah.
How many pinch hit home runs?
3rd. Put him up to pinch in, he hits a home run. Put him up the next time to pinch in, he hits a home
Yeah.
run. Not in one. I think it's maybe over. Not one
Yeah,
game. but
over different games.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
3 consecutive pinch hits, home
Ni-
runs.
1979, the Phillies beat the Cubs 23-22 in 10 innings at Wrigley Field. 50 hits, 11 home runs.
Ooh, wow.
7 hours and 30-minute game.
How about that deal? I'm telling you right now, that's a pitcher's duel.
Oh yeah.
That was 79. Did Charlie start that game?
He may.
Charlie, was that you?
He might have gone the whole way.
Oh, there goes that ERA.
The whole.
With that ERA.
We'll get
No,
a text.
text-
We'll get a
text-
text in
it's
a
coming
minute.
right now.
He's off the hook. He didn't play for the Phillies or the Cubs. That's
Okay.
we're being hard on him. 1984, the Reds' Mario Soto throws 4 strikeouts in 1 inning. So obviously there
Pass
was a
ball.
pass ball.
Yeah, I was gonna
say.
Yeah. 85, the Expos' Gary Carter is 3rd to catch 2,000 games. He
Boy,
joined
he was
He was a good player.
Boone and
Sure was.
Fisk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good company.
Yeah, he was an outstanding player, Gary Clark. 1998, Yankees pitcher David Wells pitches a perfect game in a 4-0 win over the Twins in New York.
Wow.
Caught by my cousin Joe Girardi.
Yeah. 2008, Dale Jarrett's final NASCAR race, and then he joined ESPN's NASCAR coverage of a commentary. Seems like the good ones always go into the booth, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
After they
true.
get done playing, they look to go, and they're paying big money now, Coach O'Rooley, aren't they?
They,
Guys, the broadcast.
They keep me away
Except
from the booth.
here on the sports page.
His dad Ned went. His dad Ned went to the booth too. You know,
he did.
Was a
He
good
did.
broadcaster.
Yeah. 2020, Michael Jordan's autographed Air Nike ones trainers from 1985.
Air Ones.
They sold for a record $560,000 at auction online. I'm gonna go home and check my closet, see if I got a pair of those.
Yeah.
$560,000, and they probably weren't in real good shape. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, probably not.
I don't know. Birthdays: Cool Papa Bell.
Cool Papa.
Throw that name around. He played in the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
You always think what kind of player that guy would have been in the major leagues.
A lot of players that played back then.
Yeah, boy. Center fielder played for the
Josh Gibson.
Homestead Grays.
Yeah.
Who he played for.
Satchel Paige.
He's in the Hall of Fame. You know, he's in the baseball because, they went back and put some of those guys in. Earl Morrall lived from 1934 to 2014. And NFL quarterback, played in Super Bowls 1970, 72, and 73. And he was the NFL's most valuable player in 1968. Played for Detroit, Miami. Didn't he play for Baltimore?
Baltimore too.
Didn't Unitas get hurt?
Yeah,
He had to play in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, started in the Super Bowl.
Is that the game that Namath?
That was
played against Namath?
Super Bowl III.
Super Bowl.
Earl Morrall started, and then Unitas came in the fourth quarter, but that was the one that the Jets won.
Yeah. Deaths on this day in 1996. Scott Brayton, American Auto Racing. This is a sad story. He was killed in practice at Indianapolis, and it was a pole sitter. He had qualified on the pole position, and he was practicing the next week. And he had a tire go down on him in the second turn. The tire went down, and he backed into the wall, and it fatally injured him.
What year was that?
That was 1996. He was 37 years old, and he would have never passed if they had the soft walls. You know, there's soft walls now around the track.
Yeah.
But back then it was concrete.
Yeah, it was all concrete back then, man. You hit those walls back then, and you were if you hit them wrong, you were in trouble.
You were toast.
You were in trouble. Yeah. Joe Black, American Negro League player and a Major League player. He died at 78 in 2002. And Harmon Killebrew. Remember Harmon Killebrew played for
slugger.
Played for Washington Senators, and then when they went to Minnesota, he played for them. And golly, a 13-time All-Star, and he was the MVP in the AL in 1969, and 6-time AL home run leader.
Yeah,
what a player!
What a player, and everyone says what a great guy he was.
Yeah, you remember him you remember when they had a home run derby?
Yep.
You remember that program, Home Run Derby?
they would match up to.
They'd match two guys up, and they'd.
Yeah, that was always.
Had to hit it out to count a run, you know. And you got if you didn't hit it out of the ballpark, it was an out.
It's out.
Yeah, I mean it was for about 3-4 years. That was a regular show, 30 minutes during baseball season.
Yeah, and then in 2013, Ken Venturi, golfer and broadcaster, won the U.S. Open in 1964. He passed away at the age of 82. I remember him on the broadcast and so forth. So. We got a little time left right here.
Got about 3 minutes for some final comments here.
Hey guys, it's been a nice year.
It has been
a lot
a pleasure,
of fun, and
gentlemen.
Been great working with all of you, Tony. I'm glad that you've been around this year, and we wish you luck in your season. And have a great summer.
And we have a recent graduate.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's right.
If you've been checking Facebook, this one was in a cap and gown.
Graduated from UT yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nice having you, Caleb, and we'll look forward hopefully next year to seeing more of you and Marcus and Donnie. Always great to be with you.
I've enjoyed it immensely.
Real
guys.
quick, let's go around and favorite story this year, favorite event. I'll just get it started. I think the baseball team, winning the College World Series, and then the football team going to the playoffs, and the basketball team going to the Elite Eight again, almost making it to the Final Four, one game short again. I think from my end of it, those were exciting times. And Coach Iruli, What about you?
Well, this past season up at Carson Newman, where people didn't expect us to do very much, first year for our coach Ashley, and we went ahead and made it to the national playoffs first round of the playoffs. Went I think it was 11-2 during the season, and really the things have really gone in a great way up at Carson Newman. So I've been very blessed and enjoyable, and finally being able to watch all my grandkids, my 7 grandkids, whether it's softball or baseball or soccer or dance and all that stuff. I only got kicked out of one thing, all right, this year. So
that's a pretty good record.
We won't go into that, all right, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Caleb?
Well, I won't steal your championship pick because it's a good one, but coaching change. I'll go coaching change for the women's basketball team.
Yeah.
Because that was a first coaching change for me,
Yeah.
and it's a historic program and covering that team through.
And
So I'll
future
take
looks
that.
good.
Yeah. And also got to give you some trouble because you gave me the wrong horse picks for the Derby.
Sorry about that.
So, but yeah, I'll go coaching change. That was something I've never done before.
Yeah.
Good
Mark?
deal.
Well, I'm kind of torn, but finishing up my latest run in sports, print-wise, with covering Alcoa football, and the state championship run. Watching Eli Graff for another season was just really rewarding.
And where's he going to?
I believe he's going to some school up in Jefferson City.
Jefferson City.
Yes, ours an Eagle. Carson
But
Newman,
I'll also put in there, I really enjoyed watching Eagleton College and Career Academy.
Yeah.
That first group of seniors, I believe they graduated yesterday as well, or maybe it was Thursday. But that first group of seniors, those athletes in almost every sport, they've all started from scratch, from nothing programs, and they've all brought those teams so far in these 4 years. There's just so much that's going right now with Eagleton. And let me just toss in, we had Scott West on and Principal Dallin.
Principal, yes.
On a Wednesday, as they were named Athletic Department of the Year.
Yes, they were.
But I think that's
Got
just
the
the
big
start
check.
of many good things.
$5,000 from Goteez.
And they can,
in equipment.
and I'm going to be glad to see them be able to print their first alumni shirts.
Me too.
So,
Hey,
my grandson Anthony, who's in the middle school.
Yeah.
Eagleton
Over at Point
softball
Bay.
today is a win away from the state tournament.
That's true.
They played it
yeah,
out.
we do need to say that Alcoa and Eagleton both are playing for state
Yep.
tournament slots in
And
softball
Donnie,
day.
Donnie Moore, before we get to you, I want to remind everybody that we will be back on the air in August.
Back on the air
God
in
willing,
August.
with all of us, when the high schools get back in session. And
That's true.
Hopefully
How
we'll
many
be.
years altogether now?
This is our year 47.
Wow.
47 years on the air. Donnie, your most shining moment.
I think the shining moment for me would have to be, as far as, I'm so heavily involved in high school athletics as well as Marcus. I think the Heritage Lady Mountaineers winning the state championship. First
Yeah,
ever,
that's a good one.
first in history
That's a good one.
for the school.
Yeah.
So
Very exciting.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you recovering from your shoulder injury.
Yeah, I'm
There
getting
you go.
better. That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah.
There you
Getting
go.
better.
And we want to put it out in a word of thanks to all our sponsors. and
Yes.
Brian Johnson and Aaron Ishmael there at the radio station.
Thank you very much.
Always does a great job for us. Couldn't do it. Couldn't have the show without all their help.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. Really do.
So
Yep.
Donnie, you want to blow that whistle for the last time this year?
Here
We'll
we
see
go.
We'll see everybody in August. Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goteez Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host of Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore, Marcus Fitzsimmons, Caleb Giroux, Tony Iruli. Until next Saturday, until next Saturday.
Next season.
Next season.
Till next season.
Saturday, next Saturday in August.
That's it.
Gotta
This
edit
is
that.
Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next Saturday.